Please welcome Larry A. Kudlow, Assistant to the President for Economic Policy, Director of the United States National Economic Council.
Hello, this is Kimberly Reed, President and Chairman of EXIM, and I am absolutely thrilled to introduce Larry Kudlow, the President's National Economic Advisor. Larry is an immense advocate for free markets, and he also is focused on the topic of China. And he joined us at EXIM's conference last year when I was a nominee, and I'm so thrilled that he is joining us again today. Larry, our conference is at an all-time high, at least 1,600 registrants, and we know that you have some very important messages from the President of the United States to share with this audience from around the United States. Thank you so much, sir, for all you do for our economy and our country. You're a patriot, and we support you and the President through our special tool at EXIM. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Kim. Thank you for your service. It's a great pleasure. And I guess I'll just start with kind of a broad overview. We've been through a very difficult, tough period because of the pandemic and its mitigation efforts and their impact on the economy. I simply refer to it as a pandemic contraction. And the good news, and I want to focus on the better news, is after a rough winter, we are now making a lot of progress, and recovery is developing. And recovery is probably coming on stream faster than most of the experts expected. We have more work to do. The virus is not conquered yet. The vaccines and therapies are out there and being developed as rapidly as possible, but probably 75 or 80% of the economy has reopened. And along with a good rescue package last winter that kept people afloat as best we could, we're seeing good results now. And I'll just kind of walk through some of the thoughts here. Go back to last Friday. It's a good place to start. The employment numbers were very, very, very strong. Unemployment dropped to 8.4%. It's a good number. A lot of people, probably the consensus, didn't expect a single-digit unemployment number until early in 2021. We got it in August. I think the peak was about 15%. So that's really good progress. There are some who are not yet working, and we are assisting them and keeping unemployment benefits in a very generous way. But the point is, Friday, 1.4 million business non-farm payrolls and 3.8 million households. Households tend to pick up the smaller businesses, and households give us the unemployment rate. So those are big numbers, and we're happy that it looks like we are in a V-shaped recovery. And indeed, I hope and I think it is a self-sustaining recovery. So for the 4 months, May, June, July, August, we've increased 10.6 million payrolls and 14 million in the household survey. So that's a good start. And I might add, despite the usual ankle biting from the other side and others, the bulk of that, probably 65% of that, comes in the low wage areas. Restaurants, small business, retailing, the hospitality industry, places that got very, very badly hurt. They're now coming back to work. Those who were temporarily laid off are coming back to work. And, this is a big plus. And I think there's, as long as the virus count remains low, it's been flattening and sloping down from the south and west hotspots of the summer. As long as that continues, I see no reason why the economy can't continue its V-shaped rebound. To go back a step, it's worth reminding that President Trump's tax cuts, which were passed in 2017, and his widespread deregulation across the economy, and his unleashing of energy, and his fair trade deals, and I regard EXIM Bank in many ways as part of the fair trade deals. We're unleashing you to help us on economics and national security vis-a-vis China and some other bad actors. But I think those policies generated a very sturdy very strong, sound underlying economy, which was frankly booming before the pandemic took place. So now that continues. We sort of pick up where we left off, and not everybody agrees, but this is not really a deteriorating business cycle story. This is a natural disaster, a natural catastrophe. It's worse than a hurricane, Lord knows, or a bad snowstorm. But really, that's the way you have to compare this. It's not going to last forever. We're already seeing now a housing boom, quite remarkable. We're seeing a boom in automobiles. Car sales are huge. We're seeing a boom in consumer spending. Many of these indicators, by the way, housing and consumer spending, for example, have exceeded the prior highs before the pandemic. So those are very, very good sounds. Manufacturing is doing quite well. The ISM indexes are showing big strength. New orders are showing big strength. We had a factory orders report last week, I guess it was, which showed new orders and shipments rising at a 35% annual rate. Those are awfully good numbers, and I don't see any reason why they can't continue. Inventories are rock bottom. For those of you who follow this, you're going to have to rebuild inventories to meet these demands in housing and autos and manufacturing and retailing. And that's a perfect example of a self-sustaining economy. New business applications are up about 160%, from 25,000 to 65,000. That's another very good indicator. And so one never knows, and certainly we want to be as humble as possible, but the reality is the places that needed the most help got it in the rescue package led by President Trump. It was a bipartisan package last winter, and that got us through to the other side. And now I think the other side is reigniting and rebuilding the economy. I also would add, it's very important here, and I'm not trying to be political, I'm looking at this from a policy standpoint. In terms of economic growth, it's very important that we provide free market supply side incentives to individuals, men and women working, to small business people, to entrepreneurs, and to large companies. We have a low corporate tax rate, and the biggest beneficiaries of that 21% corporate tax rate, frankly, were not the rich people, quote unquote, although I have nothing against rich people, Lord knows, but the biggest beneficiaries were the middle class, the blue collars, and the lower middle class. It was the low end that did the best in wage increases after the tax cuts. We had individual tax cuts. President would like to have another middle class tax cut when and if he's reelected. He might want to take the corporate rate down. He might want to take the capital gains rate down. He'd like to have a 4-month payroll tax deferral, which would be forgiven in 2021 if he's reelected. I think that would be a big help. It'd be a big fat wage increase for the 147 million some odd who are working. And we want to keep the regulatory push on track. We want to keep the energy push on track. We have had tremendous new guidelines, 2-year limits to environmental standards if we're going to build any construction, whether it's pipelines or bridges or tunnels or whatever. That was the so-called NEPA reform. It was very, very important. We've had clean water reforms. We've had clean air reforms. Natural gas has become the sort of king of energy, and that's a relatively clean. We've also had clean coal. So all these policies, and we've had a good trade deal with Canada and Mexico, the USMCA. And although we have many disagreements with China, many powerful disagreements with China, Ambassador Bob Lighthizer, an old friend of mine from Reagan years, he believes that the Chinese so far are working to implement that phase 1 trade deal that was signed last January. So we're engaged at least on that front. We've had small deals with Japan and South Korea and even Europe most recently. We look forward to a deal with Britain as they remove themselves from the EU. So, all this stuff is paying off. Those policies have to stay in place. It doesn't make any sense to me to start taking money out of the pockets of working men and women. I don't want to pick their pockets. I want to let them keep more of what they earn. And I want to make sure that we reward success, not to punish success. And I want to get rid of the, Washington-based quagmire of red tape and cost burdens and bureaucracies, so that we'll free it up for small businesses and inventors and innovators, creating more and more opportunities for everybody across the spectrum. I might add the minority groups, African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, they've had tremendous drops in unemployment in the last 4 months. The job's not over. There's much more to do, but that is encouraging, just as the broad-based numbers are, that we are moving in the right direction. My final thought is to you, Kim, and your venture at the EXIM Bank, your project at the EXIM Bank. As you know, I've never been a huge fan of government subsidies, but in this case, as I mentioned to your conference about a year ago, I think national security and economic security and technological security has become a tough game. And China does not play by the rules. They're not the only ones, but they're the principal focus right now. We've had trouble with them in stealing intellectual property and forced transfer of technology and hacking and cyber hacking. And they have had military incursions in the South China Seas. They certainly misbehaved during the China virus origination. All these avenues are being pursued by various people. I guess you're going to have my great pal Robert O'Brien there and others to talk about that. On the economic side, we look forward to funding the EXIM. Your board is filled out. As you said, you're generating projects now. We will compete with China. We will compete with China, and the EXIM Bank is going to be a key factor in that global competition with China. That's very, very important. We also have to mobilize the great American private investment sector, because our private investment dwarfs China's investment. They have government subsidies. We will now pick up our game with the EXIM help, and of course we will enlist our great innovative entrepreneurial private investment sector to put up the capital for projects, for technologies, for 5G, for everything around the world. That's our goal. And Kim, stay at the top of your game. I know you will. You have a great smile here on the Zoom camera. And thank you very much for having me to your little conference. I guess I'm perfectly happy to take a few questions if you have any.
Thank you very much, Larry. We really appreciate your engagement. So I'd like to ask you what you see us doing with our allies and partners around the world. Is EXIM not only supports its own transactions, but we co-finance some transactions with our export credit agency peers. I've just come from hosting, the United States hosting our G12 meeting of export credit agencies. And just from your vantage point, how we can be working with partners and allies around the world.
Well, if they meet your standards, no problem. I guess I would encourage that, as long as they meet your standards. And frankly, as long as they're friends and allies of the United States. That's also very important. You know, this exercise is aimed at creating economic strength at home here in the States, recreating lost jobs down through the years in manufacturing, farming, ranching, and other places. And it's also a strong economy at home will enhance our position overseas. We'd love to do business with other countries and other credit facilities as long as they meet our standards.
Could we focus a little bit on supply chains as we work to reshore our U.S. supply chain? EXIM is providing some liquidity, but just any thoughts you want to share with the audience on reshoring American jobs?
Well, just nothing specific. I mean, just generally, as you know, the president has made it quite clear. He wants supply chains and individual companies to come back home. If they move from the US to China rather, we want them to come back home. And we've set up a bunch of incentives. We've created tax incentives, we've created regulatory incentives, and we can create financial and credit incentives as well. It's a very important part of our overall macro policy view, as it pertains to geoeconomics as well as geopolitics. So America, it doesn't necessarily mean America alone, but it is America first and foremost. And again, we welcome with open arms. It's like the prodigal son in the Bible, We want the prodigal son to return home, and we will have open arms for the prodigal son, and bestow upon him or her whatever riches and rewards we can.
One final question, Larry. So you served President Reagan?
You didn't expect me to quote scripture. I know that.
This good girl from West Virginia loves it. Thank you, Larry. So you worked for President Reagan, and now you work for President Trump. So just would love to hear a personal reflection on the differences between serving those two presidents, and any insights you want to share with our audience.
Well, look, I do this once every 40 years. This will probably be my last one. I was the top economist at the Office of Management and Budget a long time ago under President Reagan. And President Trump has given me a tremendous, really, in my view, the greatest professional honor I've ever had to bring me in as his assistant and NEC director. It's been a great ride. It's coming up. I'm moving into my third year. I'm still standing, and President has been wonderful, accessible, and I've hoped to give him the best policy advice I can. I think I like our whole team here, frankly. We get along very, very well. And I know that the principles that Ronald Reagan espoused in terms of incentives and deregulation and letting people keep more of what they earn and so forth are principles that former businessman Donald Trump espouses as well. And making America the top dog is very important to both presidents. And Reagan was the one who argued time and time again many years ago, and I've never forgotten this, if you're weak at home, you're weak abroad. But if you're strong at home, you are strong abroad. And I know that President Trump agrees with that. He has said it many times. So I am honored to help the president, to help the country, to provide service. And we'll see. We've got a good, very interesting next couple of months, don't we?
Well, thank you very much, Larry. You are doing a great job, and we're so proud of what you're doing. And I'm so delighted to be part of your and the president's economic team. Our conference theme this year is Keeping America Strong. It's also the new vision of XM. And please tell the president I can't wait to get him and you on the road so we can see some of those great jobs that we're supporting around the country as we export more and more around the world. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.